All right. Good. All right. Well, Ramona, it's been a few weeks now. How
Yeah.
have you been? I know there's been some obstacles throughout these last couple weeks. I would like to catch up on let's start with the first day. How was the first day?
Um, so we're about 3 weeks into the program properly, not including the combine. And First day, well, the first couple weeks were pretty intense. Training intensity. So we have pretty our I guess red days, or the days in which we push like harder would be like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Wednesday being sparring, and so I think everyone just being there, um, in a new environment and finally getting to properly train, because we had like a week of the combine and then we had some like bunch of press stuff like later on that week. So it wasn't really full training. It was more just doing all the things that we needed to do to wrap up, I guess, that portion of things. And so first week, the intensity was definitely high. And it's like everyone's training with each other for the first time. And so, you're not really gonna take it easy, or kind of like back down, like everyone kind of feels like, oh, I need to prove myself a little bit. So I think that the intensity and the energy was definitely high. I mean, it still is right now, but as we grow familiar with each other, we become, there's more technical, that we there's more emphasis on like the technical parts of things. So yeah, it's still, we're still getting used to a lot of things, and things keep changing. But it's been fun to kind of just see how they run things and how they structure things, and just be pretty much their guinea pig, um, and try to just have fun doing it.
Yeah, it is the first time that they're doing this, so you are you are a guinea pig, which is kind
Yeah.
of weird to say, but at the same time, uh it actually helps you to be the guinea pig. Do you think so in some ways?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they have access to all this. I always talk about the data and like in my stories and stuff like that, but ultimately, the sport has been around like for what, like 25 years. And so, and the promotion has been around for that longer. And so they have a lot of information, 25 years of information available to them, and that would be more than any other organization in the sport currently. And so, they've got all these numbers and all these different metrics that they collect over these years, and especially from the actual bouts themselves, across weight divisions, across genders, the rate at which you finish, the different, you know, what is a more successful discipline, strength conditioning, periodization, injury prevention, all this stuff that they're basically taking and then implementing into a program, and being like, we think that based on what we know, this could be the most optimal way to help this individual prevent injury, be at their most optimal state, be at their strongest, fastest, most explosive. And it's like everyone is different, across all the weight divisions, like all the different body types, even in this program. And so, what I might need in strength conditioning is completely different to what my, straw weight female teammate is going to need for her strength conditioning. Um, because, we go get our DEXA scans. So it tells us, our lean body mass, our body fat, and relative to our weight division, do we need to put on more muscle, or do we just need to lose body fat, or, you know, and then based on that, what kind of training adaptations need to happen in strength conditioning, and then that's not even, and then skill work is like kind of on top of that. So um it's it's we're in good hands, right? And so it's, obviously this UFC Academy thing has never been done before, and this is their first time having a go at it, but they're definitely more than prepared to get a program like this running, and have it be successful. I just don't see how you can possibly be in a program like this and be a part of it and not grow and not evolve and not improve, in all aspects, not just in your skills, but as an athlete as well. And it just also brings a lot of awareness because all the testing that they do on us, it's also very educational for us to kind of see where we're at relative to maybe what their standards of a UFC fighter is, and be able to identify our weaknesses, rather than just use some cookie cutter approach that a lot of these other gyms use, because purely because they don't have the same kind of information that the UFC has. And might work for some people and it might not work for others, or it might be outdated and traditional and not take into consideration the kind of recovery protocols and practices that you really need to truly progress. So yeah, you know I don't mind that at all, being the guinea pig, and it's actually a lot of fun. Like we learn, they learn, and it's cool to be a part of that.
Through this testing, this various testing and the knowledge of the coaches that you have at your fingertips, what have you found out about yourself in the first couple weeks that you were surprised about?
Oh, um, so I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm not explosive, but I'm terrible at like jumping movements. And I never really noticed this because I don't do that in my training. Um, but it makes a lot of sense because I'm also, as a female, I've got like really wide hips. And so for me to jump, there's this Q angle where like my knees kind of come in when I'm trying to do movements like that. And so it takes a lot of um, force away, I guess. And so, and also I'm just heavier individual. I think just my body type. So I'm very strong in movements. Like I can maybe push things, and move weight, but not in the fastest way. And so that was kind of um not super surprising, but it was kind of like, oh, okay, that's like actually a weakness that I need to work on, my explosive strength. And that I never really thought about before. I just thought, well, I'm a strong individual, and I can like hit hard. And so I just assumed that I was explosive. But actually, that was just strength. And so strength that can be applied, but just not in as fast of a manner as I want it for the sport. So that was one thing. And also, I think for me, weight has always been the hardest thing for me to maintain. It's never been like um, my discipline in recovery. It's never been my discipline in training. I always go full effort with those, and there usually isn't like more that I could do. Well, recovery probably more I could do, but it's not like I'd ever kind of skim back on training effort. But with the weight management, so they got this weight management program that we're on that requires us off season to be no more than 17% over fight weight. Okay. And I think a lot of people, and so when I was first weighed 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was 22% over. So I'm lower than that now. I don't know whereabouts I am. So we're steadily dropping, but 22% is way too fucking high, And what ends up happening, and this happens all the time, I've seen it, I've been through it, and this is what our nutritionist Reed actually was, we had a consultation and he talked about, he's like, a lot of times you want to have a fight camp, okay, like your 6 to 8 week fight camp, but you're so over your weight that it becomes fat camp. And so you're not actually training in those 8 weeks for this fight to be at your optimal. You're just training to cut the weight, you know? And I have witnessed that. It just like really resonated with me because I've seen it. And so a lot of people are always like, oh yeah, like my weight's fine. Like I always they'll always say, I never miss weight, you know, and it's not a question about their discipline in making that weight. It's like, oh, I can, you know, brag about, oh, I can cut 25 kilo or, you know, whatever, 20 kilos in camp or like 15 kilos and 8 kilos in a day, whatever. And I feel like it's a bit of like a rite of passage and people feel like, oh, that's really impressive. But the whole point of it is how to make yourself optimal and how to be at your very best and at your peak on the night of the fight, right? And everything leading up to that plays a huge role. And so if you can be at that 15% range over your fight weight, that's what you need to maintain. And that also is part of being a professional in this sport. And that's something that opened my eyes because I've kind of always been lazy about it and, you know, making excuses and being like, oh, it's fine. I'm not in camp. You know, I don't really need to be disciplined or, you know, I'll go off the rails on weekends and stuff like that when, you know, you can't do that. You really can't. And because if you do, that's just really, you know, to your detriment and really screwing you over for when the time comes and fight camp starts and you just have too much weight to lose, you've already sabotaged yourself by not taking care of the off season. Um, and you know, even I mean, you even see UFC fighters like I don't know, like Daniel Cormier when he was fighting at 205, like
Mhm.
you know, and even he said like I just wasn't disciplined, you know, off season stuff like that, and it happens to a lot of people. You know, you restrict yourself for so long, and then you're just like oh I just want to eat food now, and you know, a lot of fighters have like just really bad relationships with food, you know, because of that restriction and the weight cutting and the starving and the dehydration. So um, that's something that needs to be managed, and it's actually and people don't put any emphasis on it because every time you go to a gym, it's usually just show up and train, and no one's really going to be there to tell you like what you should eat or like you know keep on you with like what's your weight and things like that. Or some people overdo it, you know, and go through do these like drastic cuts, like you know, towards camp. Um, so that's one thing as well. That's a big thing, I think, to be able to see something that I struggled with so much and see that there's a solution, you know, and they're not allowing me. So everyone gets to fight within the 6 month period at a show, and not the UFC, but like at a show, you know, at a smaller show in which they'll like support you and, you know, that kind of thing. And I think the first round of people are going to be fighting in August or
Mhm.
something. And so there are some people that might be fighting twice in the 6 month period. But for me, they want me to have enough time to get my weight down properly and not just do like a drastic cut and get my weight down. And so I'll like shoot right back up. And so they're having me fight closer to like October, November when are they're confident that I'm at a place where I'm able to maintain my weight and but not just that, actually be performing at my best and at my most optimal. And at no point am I, you know, and I've dropped like a couple kilos already, and at no point in the last 3 weeks have I been starving myself either.
Mhm.
And they really try to make it work for what, you know, what it's like they look at my diet and what I'm eating, and then they won't just like give me a cookie cutter thing to follow that, you know, doesn't really fit with what I actually like or dislike or what I habitually eat, I guess. So they'll kind of look at what I already eat and then maybe make some adjustments, you know, based on okay, we want you throughout this day to like hit this X number of calories, but obviously they're not making me weigh stuff or like count calories. They'll kind of just do some estimation and then kind of be like, okay, let's see how that goes, and then we'll just, you know, make changes from there. And then we have weigh-ins weekly on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So that's also a big one that kind of keeps us in check as well. So um, yeah, the weight management program has been a really big thing that's opened my eyes.
Do you think in Asia it's a bigger problem, with the type of food, Asians eat and like are they behind the rest of the world, do you believe, in like meal prep and and diet control and I don't know. I think just educated on the type of food that athletes should be eating, during camp or even outside of camp, and kind of like managing their weight better. Or do you think that people just I don't know. I think I said it right earlier. It's just they don't know. They just don't. They're not
Yeah.
educated. You think that's the
Yeah.
situation right now?
Uh, well, I think habitually it's like a lot of Asians, I guess, will eat buns and like noodles
Mm,
for breakfast. And they still do. I still see that, out here. Um, but it's just habit. Like it's how they grew up. It's how everyone else eats, and they kind of just don't really, yeah, they don't kind of, they wouldn't be able to eat like vegetables for breakfast. That's for sure. Like you'd be like, what is this? I find that they also eat a lot of fruits at each meal. They'll have like a bowl of fruit. Um, but I also I don't feel that it affects them like their weight too negatively. Also, I don't know. Maybe because like the people that are in this program are also like a lot younger and like metabolism is a lot higher, and body type also comes into play, genetics. Um but yeah, I would say probably in Asia there's like a little less, habits are just different,
mhm.
and also there's just less, yeah, less education on the nutrition front for sure. um if you compare it to like the Western world. uh but at the same time, I guess you could have bad eating habits, I guess wherever you are. I think it really starts with also like what you're used to growing up with. Like if you're used to growing up eating cereal every morning and like peanut butter jelly sandwiches or something, and you're just very used to that. But yeah, it just comes down to education. If you can like let them know like what is better to eat. And we've had those classroom sessions. So we have classroom sessions twice a week, because a really big part of the program is also education. And so it's not just telling us what to do, but really going in depth as to why we're doing it and really getting us to understand. And for the nutrition, we had a couple of nutrition lectures already, and one of them was, if you were going to cut weight, what would your plate look like for breakfast, lunch, dinner? And then if you were trying to maintain, what would that look like? If you were trying to bulk up or gain weight, what would that look like? And the cool thing about that is they also kind of took direct examples. So they actually went and looked at what most people actually eat in the morning, um, in the program, and be like, okay, instead of like this, how about this other option? So it's like, example, for whatever reason, like there's like a fried noodle option there sometimes. And so like, okay, you have these fried noodles. If you really need to have noodles, because a lot of people, that's just a staple in their diet. Instead of getting fried noodles, you can get noodles and soup, and that cuts out like X number of calories. And instead of having buttered toast, you can have just the toast, and that takes out X number of calories. So they do that for like breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then it's like daily you would save this amount of calories, and in a week you would save this amount of calories, which end up accounting for quite a lot. Um, and so I think that kind of thing is like really cool that they're doing this education part, but not just that, also trying to integrate it with the actual habits that most people in the program have. But I think generally it's like people know that you can't just sit around and eat bad foods. Like everyone eats generally pretty clean as well,
Mhm.
because we've got this massive salad bar in the cafeteria, and then different kinds of grilled meats, so you can choose like your fish, beef, chicken, and then some like hot foods. And so I think generally everyone's pretty much like getting weight down unless they've been told that they need to put it on.
Well, the key I think is, you have that kitchen right now, but then when you leave the academy
Yeah.
and you have to maintain that, right? Is it's much harder. If you have that at home, if you have, somebody helping you and cooking your meals and stuff and kind of like continuing that process, I guess it would be better, but I guess it's all up to the individual when they leave, right? Now, going back to what you were talking about, explosiveness, right? And I saw in your stories that you were doing certain, exercises with weights. I'm pretty sure that's, for your explosiveness. Now, what are you doing exactly to be more explosive? And like what corrections have they made? And like what kind of exercises are they recommending for you?
So I so because I naturally have like pretty high muscle mass already. For my weight division, I don't need to be adding more muscle mass because then it would make it really difficult for me to make weight. And if anything, I might even benefit from losing some muscle, I think is what they said. Um, so that's why I'm not doing anything that's like lifting in your sort of traditional sense where, you're really overloading the muscle because then that creates muscle tears and muscle tears then go back and then, you get that's where you get mass. Um, and so they're basically having me do exercises that put my muscles in as little load as possible for the shortest period of time. Sorry, not little load, but like for the shortest load for the shortest period of time. So it's like I'll do a lot of single leg hops. And so that is freaking hard because it's a lot of stabilizer muscles, like your calf, your shin starts to fatigue, your glutes, hamstrings, quads. And it's not just doing the hops, but like doing them over and over again. And it's also neural. So you're actually having to think about how you're going to land, how you're going to take off, how to swing your arms, all this stuff. And so it's when you have to actually think of something as you're doing the exercise that also adds to the fatigue and adds to how taxing it can be. Um, so it's just I do lower body, I do upper body, I do a bunch of core, and it's all about trying to generate that power. And they have different um, instruments to actually measure that, and these devices in the gym where I'll do a set and it'll say, okay, you got for your 5 efforts. So I did 5 reps. So for the 5 reps, like this is what you got on each rep. And let's try in the next set to get higher than that. And then they might say UFC standard is X. And so let's try to get you to X. And so I'll do stuff like, I'll be standing on a platform and I just kind of fall off the platform onto the ground. And I try to spend as little time as possible on the ground, but try to jump as high as I can. And then that acceleration is the score that we're looking at to sort of maximize basically. And that'll determine my ability to in the middle of a fight, for example, like suddenly change direction or suddenly like do a different motion. Obviously all the power comes from your legs and from the ground. And the upper body stuff, again, explosive, seeing how much velocity I can produce by throwing something, um, sitting or standing. Yeah, and it's kind of just a little bit different each time. And then another thing that they do have me do for cardio is because I'm trying to lose fat. The most optimal state to do that is when your heart rate is at a certain point. I don't know if it's like 130 or 140 or something like that, but they'll give me a percentage. I always have a heart rate monitor on every time I do cardio, and they'll let me see the screen on the iPad. And so I basically have to make sure that I maintain and I keep my heart rate at a certain percentage that they prescribe. And then we'll do like, longer duration kind of stuff like that, just to get the energy expenditure up without taxing my body too much. And It's been working really well. And if anything, just making me more aware of how I need my body to sort of react in a lot of situations to be quicker.
How are you feeling, mentally, throughout this first couple weeks? Was there a point, where you felt like more relaxed with this whole education that you're getting?
I think the vibe, like it's not. like ever since I've started training MMA, you go to a gym, you join a team, and it's the atmosphere is usually pretty like chilled out. It's a family kind of feel, and you go in there and you can like talk shit to like your teammates and
Mhm.
your coaches, and everyone's kind of that unit, which is cool, and like which is what you normally have. But with this program, it's a lot more like you're at school,
Mm.
and like the teaching, it's a very corporate feel. So the teaching staff, they're sort of their own unit, and then the students, like, we're our own unit. And a lot of things that they do behind the scenes we don't see, and we only get to see kind of what they need us to see or want us to see. So there's a bit of that divide, and there's, I think, obviously, because it's a shorter program, a very well funded program, there's probably more expectation on both sides. And so there is pressure that comes with that, obviously, for them on their side. They have the pressure to produce results, so that all this effort that they're putting in, because they put in so much effort. Like the way that it's run, it's like full time for these guys. Like they're in there every single day. They're having meetings. They're making sure that we are being taken care of, especially with like physio, with our injuries, programming. And so there's pressure for them to make sure that their efforts and investment don't go to waste, and that it produces results for sure. And for us, there's pressure to deliver the results, to not, it's like this is a fully sponsored program, where we're not we get to kind of save money on accommodation, food, training, all that stuff. And in addition to that, we get, the highest caliber of MMA development um, available on the planet today. So for us, it's kind of like we want to be able to deliver every single day our best. And so I think it does get pretty high pressure, and you kind of, you're always like, I need to do well. Like you kind of get in your own head a little bit. But the great thing is the coaches, they also make it a point to have fun with it, to remind us that we're here to have fun. Like we'll have days where shit is just serious, like we got wrestling today, we're gonna have some sparring, like everyone's on point, like work hard. And then there are days like Saturdays, where we will train hard. Like, yesterday we trained like 3 hours back to back. But a lot of it was just really fun because, the first half hour was this warm up where they had us play like a bunch of games. That was like, it just woke everyone up and like got everyone in like a really good kind of frame of mind, because by Saturday you've already been through like a whole week of training and you're probably just like mentally fatigued, physically fatigued. And then just kind of changing things up all the time. We don't do the same warm ups, techniques change. Maybe the structure of the classes stay the same. But the S&C sessions are always different when we do them as a group. So we'll do like this team circuit. So it's not personalized or anything. It's really just to get us moving, just to get us bonding, and we'll have like a bunch of different stations, and we'll be paired up, and each pair will like be at one station. So they keep it different all the time. So that's what keeps it also fun. And everyone in the program is like super, it's a good, really good group. Everyone's really nice, very respectful. Everyone wants to be there. Everyone works hard. Um, and, uh, and the environment is just, it's awesome. So like mentally, I feel better than I ever have. If there's any anxiety that I have, it's really just, am I doing enough? Am I putting enough effort? Um, and am I making the most out of this short period of time that I have? Because we're almost into like mid-July, and so we're almost at the 5 month, at the 1 month mark. So that like 5 months left. um and the only guarantee is this whole program will end, and we won't have all of this available to us after December. So needing to just make the most out of it and make sure that I'm on point.
Physically, you've been through some obstacles already. Could you talk about those? I think you talked about them a little bit, but could
Yeah,
you
yeah.
go through that?
Yeah, we had VO2 max testing 2 weeks ago, and I kind of basically ran until failure. And so there's one level where I was like, okay, I should jump off after this. Like, I think this is all I have. This is all I have. And then I kind of got amped up, and I just kept going. And I was like, oh, VO2. I want to get, overachiever. I want to kill this test. It ended up killing me. So I wanted to jump off the treadmill, but it's like a really wide treadmill, and the railing was really short. So my hand missed the railing, and I just like fell onto the belt that was going really freaking fast. And so I kind of landed on my fingers, hyperextending them. But you know, I think it was a good thing that the belt was going super fast. So then I didn't have too much time for my weight to actually, be on my hand. And so I flew back off the treadmill, um, and sprained the ligaments in my right hand. And so I've been on modified training for the past 2 weeks now. Um, and it wasn't. I mean, it's when you're unmodified. So basically, like every morning, almost every morning, I have to go to the physio. The physio will assess me to see progress. So see how I feel with my hands in certain positions, then to assess like what I can actually do. Like for example, how I'm gripping, because that's important for wrestling. How I can close my fists or put pressure on it, because that's for striking. And then he'll go up and have the coaches meeting that they have every single morning before training, and then they'll decide whether I'll be on modified training, or whether I'll be doing strength conditioning instead, or when I might be able to, be fit to full train, fit to go back to full training mode. So in the past 2 weeks, I've been doing a lot of strength conditioning sessions, because there's still a lot I can do, obviously, even with the injured hand. Um, so every time the team trains, I'm also training, but I might be just doing something else. And so that was the great thing about it. It's like I miss out on technique for sure, but I'm not missing out on work. I'm still improving. I'm still progressing, just in other areas and where I can, that won't require my hand to be in any vulnerable positions that might cause further injury or re-injury. And next week I should be back to full training.
And I think going through an injury like that so early, it could kind of be what is the word? I forgot the word, but it could kind of give you some more stress, I guess. You already have some stress, because you're starting out, but getting that injury gives you more stress. So how have you handled, like, maybe even trying to just recover and relax? What have you been doing to do that?
Oh well, so yeah, we had a really heavy first 2 weeks, and the coaches decided to program this past week as a deload, which I don't know how many gyms in the world are doing this, but they basically cut down on sessions. So they cut 2 training sessions, and the all the other training sessions are all technical only, besides the one high intensity session that would be sparring. So that's like the Wednesday morning. Um, so knowing that they pushed us really hard for 2 weeks, they wanted to give us this one opportunity to kind of relax, focus on recovery. So instead of those 2 training sessions that got cut, they were um, basically filled with, or then they filled those 2 slots with recovery sessions. So it would have been like sauna, or like cryo, or hot cold plunge, or like recovery boots. And also, just to reiterate the importance of recovery. And I think a lot of us were not used to that, because we're like, well, we're used to training twice a day every day, and now you're telling us that we need to rest in the afternoon. And it feels really foreign. And there's like, all of a sudden we have all this free time. We don't know what to do with ourselves. Um, but everyone's really rested very well this week. Like, we really haven't been pushed hard, except for the one session that they said that we were going to push. And so, next week is probably going to be a really heavy week, but, we're all ready for that. So, I mean, I don't feel like I'm overtrained at all. Um, And the fact that right after training too, they make sure that we do breathing exercises. They make sure that we go to the hydrotherapy room. So, and that's not just, you know, after your second session, that's also after your first session, and it's in the schedule. So you have training, and then you have recovery before you eat, morning and in the evening. um so yeah, I haven't really had any issues with, like, I guess, relaxing, you know, making sure I'm like sleeping enough, and we have enough time to rest in between sessions and rest after sessions. So um yeah, I haven't been feeling overly stressed at all, considering like did have an injury, and I think if I had been anywhere else in the world in any other gym, I would have been so mad at myself and like super bummed and be like, I can't believe that happened. You know, it's setting me back. Like I don't know how long. But I think I kind of was relieved of that anxiety, because knowing that we have a physio that takes care of that, you know, we have coaches that know when to put me back in. I have an S&C coach that can have me working even when I'm on the bench. So, you know, I think I was minimally stressed by the injury.
You know, you've been doing a lot of training on your own, and you go there and you got these professionals helping you out. What have you found out that you've been doing completely wrong? Like you thought you were working hard and you thought you were doing it right, but then you found out from the SNC coach that it's like, hey, that is actually doing more damage than good.
Yeah. Well, I was lucky. The last coach that I worked with, and it was only for a short period of time, actually a friend of mine, um, Kevin Don. He's more CrossFit related, into CrossFit sports, but he was really good with getting my gas tank up. So I had a really good experience with him. And he was he was super knowledgeable. So I don't really do my own programming. Actually, I haven't been doing my own programming in years. I have someone else do it. You know, someone who's a lot more qualified, who has experience with athletes. Um, because I'm just not qualified to do that on my own. You know, so that's the one thing that I really, I think I a good decision that I've made for the past, I don't know, maybe like since I started actually my MMA career. I started working with remote coaches. But the one thing that I kind of did, um, maybe a lot last year, but that was more post surgery. I trained a lot of time under tension kind of weights, you know, where I was putting my muscle under a lot of tension, and I built a lot of muscle that wasn't functional muscle. It was just like I'd be strong, like pushing things, but it wasn't explosive. So I think that's the only thing that I was doing incorrectly. But other than that, I think for S&C, I always kind of put in someone else's more experienced hands. So there was nothing really that I was like doing wrong. I think more in the training part of things, like more in the skills. Um, people people just think that you really need to go hard a lot. Um, and so at top team, we were hard sparring twice a week, which is a lot, from what I know now. And, you know, there's also risk of getting concussed and risk of so many other injuries when you're going, you know, hard out in sparring. And so I understand now why we only do sparring here once a week, and we'll cover all the bases. We'll do our boxing, we'll do our kickboxing, we'll do MMA. And of course, when we do our skill specific, we'll also have live, you know, we'll go live and we'll spar in like wrestling or wall wrestling. But that'll be, you know, no strikes. So like you don't really have a risk of getting concussed, and they're like controlled, um, more controlled kind of drills. Um, but I think just that kind of old school mentality of thinking that you need to like toughen up and go hard all the time, um, is one thing, and not pay attention to recovery as much as you should is one thing that I've seen a lot of gyms do wrong.
Have you guys been doing a film study in any of those classes? Is that part of what you guys are doing over there, or is that?
Yeah, yeah, it is. So yeah, because obviously the coaches have access to the entire UFC library since its inception. And so they looked at all these tapes, and I can tell you, our head coach Dean Amasinger, he's obsessed with this kind of stuff. So he pays attention to all the little details, which is why I love. We watched the last UFC together, which was last Sunday, a week ago, and it was awesome to be able to watch it, with him and Richie, because you they kind of will make their opinions as well, and then you kind of learn from that, and like they catch details that I normally wouldn't. So yeah, we will review tapes. So if a certain technique that we're doing has something to do with a fight, and an execution, um, demonstrated in real situation, then we'll for sure gather around the big screen and we'll have a look at that first, and then Dean will break it down for us, so that at least we understand how it's supposed to look in real time, with someone else, involved, before we break, and then we actually execute the technique. So we definitely do that.
Wow, it must be mind blowing to, have the whole catalog and even like a fight that you watched and maybe you never noticed something about that fight and then they'll bring it up and they'll show you exactly like, bit by bit like how this happened. Can you give us anything like or like a fight that you saw recently or a tape that you reviewed that you were just like blown away by?
Um, there are a bunch, but I mean, as an example, like a recent fight, Song Yadong, remember his
Yeah.
knockout? Yeah. So that one was really fundamental. It was basically like someone kind of coming in and throwing like a soft kick without covering up, and so you just you you can easily counter that with like a fully extended cross. And so that was one of the things that we were looking at. Um, and a lot of people teach it already, but to be able to see it in real situation and how effective it was, then you're like, okay, now I see why it's so fucking important
Mm.
when I'm gonna throw that low kick from that stance to cover up, or to like extend that hand and make sure that you actually, yeah, at least defend yourself from that cross, or if the cross is coming, at least like take some of the pressure off, because if it's coming at you at full force and lands precisely, um, that could be career affecting damage. So
Well, you saw that, that the
mm,
guy was starched, it was over like before he even hit the ground,
yeah.
which was an incredible fight, that kind of made him a breakout star that, that knockout.
Yeah, for sure.
Um Now going back to the kitchen, right? And the diet and the food that they're serving cuz I've been, watching, your stories of course and you show some of the food in the salad bar. Like what is the food that you're enjoying the most there?
I think my palate is probably a lot different to everyone else in the program. And so what they actually serve over there, like I'm like super into, because there's a lot of vegetables, like a huge variety of vegetables, and I'm like so big into vegetables only because they fill me up. All that fiber like just fills me up. Like I'm the kind of person, I have a huge appetite, so I'm the kind of person that I won't eat rice or noodles, because I'll eat it, and for the amount of carbs that are in it, like it's just not satisfying to me. Like I'm gonna want to eat more. And so for me, like the biggest, um I guess, appeal is the variety of like veggies and non, I guess, like tofu as well, dishes that they
Mhm.
have. um Chili sauces that they have are bomb too. And yeah, and like the different kinds of meats, and you can choose, like, you want a grilled, poached, smoked salmon, grilled salmon. pretty much have everything, and so you can kind of like chop and change. It doesn't have to be the same thing every day, even though I pretty much eat the same thing every day because I'm a creature of habit.
Do they have, like, specials of the day, like a restaurant, or is it just they have kinda like this set buffet style, and then you just go in there and
Yeah,
kinda
it's
select what they
some
have?
some things are like staples, and the other things will rotate. Like the hot dishes, they'll rotate. There'll be
Mhm,
like different types of stuff. Asian influence stuff. Steamed egg can be um, bean sprouts would be like stir fries and stuff like
mhm,
that. A cool thing this week that we had was we have this refuel bar downstairs that's right outside the strength conditioning area, where they had like a different shake of the day, like protein shake, because we have protein shakes after once a day. So usually after second training, because we have an hour before dinner, and that's the hours for recovery. And so they are usually like right after training, you can have a shake, and then you don't go to your recovery, and then you go have dinner. So then, yeah, they had like a different one every day. One day was blueberries, one day was matcha, one day was orange. I thought it was a little odd. One day was strawberry banana, and then one day was chocolate mint, just to see like what we would like.
mhm.
So I thought that was freaking awesome. And then they also
Chocolate
have,
mint, was that good?
yeah, super good. They didn't like it though. Like the other, because they're not used to that minty flavor. They actually put fresh mint in there. Like I was a huge fan. And then someone
Oh,
was like,
mint's
"Yeah,
good.
but they're not the other guys are not so into the mint flavor." They thought it was
Mhm.
kind of weird. I was like, "Okay, fair enough." Um, and they've got whey protein. They've got vegan, you know, pea protein. They use regular dairy milk or soy milk if you're, and because you fill out this questionnaire if you're um, intolerant to dairy, and so they'll sort of make your shake accordingly, which is awesome.
Are you, lactose intolerant yourself?
I think I'm slightly. I think everyone is slightly. Like I'm not like super. So I go for the dairy because it's like low fat, and soy milk has like more fat, and I'd rather save my calories for like food. So yeah.
With protein, is it do they on you I think you just said that they only give it to you once a day. Is that the recommended? Because I know lots of people, they take protein like 2 or 3 times a day, right? So
Yeah,
are they doing that wrong?
no, I mean it depends. It really depends. It's just like in the morning we have breakfast, and so people are eating already. You don't need protein then, unless you like, you know, really want it. Like if you want a meal replacement, so instead of eating breakfast, you want to have protein, then you can do that. I do that sometimes. We'll have like coffee with my protein, but if you're eating actual food, like you don't need it. You just have to make sure that you're eating a balanced meal. So because we have breakfast before training, and then we train, and then right after our first training, we have lunch right away, and so they don't make us shakes for that. It's just in the afternoon, right after we train, there's a gap in which until we get to eat food, and so that's why they give us the shakes so that we can get something in our system right away for recovery. But I mean, yeah, depends. Like protein intake, all that stuff, like it all depends.
Are they giving you, supplements also, or do they not recommend taking that?
They have not. They've talked about supplements that might have illegal substances in it, so like be
Mm.
careful, don't be taking stuff. Random brands. So the supplement brand that they have is Thorn, which is like really high quality, and I know this from experience with knowing a lot of PTs and being a PT myself. But they haven't given us that yet. I'm not sure if they will. I think they will, but I'm not entirely sure yet.
Like, what did you take, uh, before going to the UFC Academy? Did you have kinda like a set, like,
Yeah,
schedule
just
of supplementation?
fish oils, magnesium, and I think I had like a digestive enzyme. That was pretty much it. Like I don't really take anything on top of that. I just feel for me, I feel it's kind of inconvenient to be taking pills all the time. Also, there's so many supplement companies out there that don't really produce quality products, and then the products that are quality are super expensive. And for me, I can't really justify spending so much money a month on supplements. So, I feel like fish oils and magnesium are kind of the basic, anti-inflammatory, um, stress and mood regulator. So I was taking those. I've run out and I haven't really, gone out to get more. And they've kind of told us that we shouldn't. So, but I haven't been feeling, I've been feeling pretty good with the way that I've been eating, and, the recovery stuff. So, yeah, I don't feel like it's like you have to have supplements and the right stuff, but I'm sure it probably helps at some point. But there are kind of other things that are more important.
You went through a knee surgery. How is your knee holding up? Is it, do you not feel anything? You feel fully like recovered, or have you felt anything throughout the last couple weeks?
No, the knees felt fine. I'm
Mm.
still doing a lot of strengthening work on it. Still trying to take care of a lot of imbalances because obviously, I was off it for a very long time. But no, it hasn't given me any issues, specifically from that injury, which has been great. But it's kind of like after something like that, it's like now the what I call the weaker side is just less developed muscularly than the other side because the other side has been taking a lot of load. So, still working on balancing that out, but there's nothing that hinders training, my ability to train.
Well, it must be great to have a physio and strength and conditioning coach right there, helping you out if you do need some like balancing. Is there any like machines there that like shows you your balance? I'm pretty sure there is, right? Have you used anything for that?
Um, I'm sure there is, but off the top of my head, yeah, off the top of my head, I can't really think of any right now. But they're also like visual assessments that I'm sure the SNC coach like has as well, that can assess your balance. It's like probably more like jump off this platform and then we'll see, how you land and things like that. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I can't think of like an actual device that they have, but I don't doubt that they do. I think the best part about not just having a full staff of coaches is that they all communicate. Because a lot of times, a lot of fighters will have an SSC coach, they'll have an MMA coach, they'll have a physio, and they don't communicate at all. They, in fact, don't even know each other. And you're programming and you're, prescribing exercises and, things to somebody that's also doing other things, but you don't know what those other things are. And so, how are you really able to prescribe something that will get them to their most optimal state? A lot of them just assume they just have no they're not familiar with the intensity that you're putting in MMA, and so your SNC coach might run you too hard, and then that will fry up your central nervous system. And so I think that's kind of the best part here is that everything is integrated, between the SNC, between MMA, between the physio, between the nutritionist. Everyone knows what's going on. Um, and everyone is aware of where your progress is at, how you're feeling, if you need to have a light day, if you can handle a heavy day. And I think that is super important to getting you feeling, your best and getting you performing at your best. And that's, I think, one of the biggest benefits of having that here.
In the next couple of weeks, is there anything that you're looking forward to? Have they mentioned anything that you are kind of hyped about, getting into, or maybe any machines or anything, any part of the PI that is that you can have access to? I don't know. What can you talk about that?
I mean, not really. Like we've pretty much seen and experienced everything already. Oh, there's one thing that they haven't. I think that'll come a little bit later. It's like cognitive enhancement, which has something to do with your brain's alpha waves, allowing you to be in a state of flow for a longer period of time. So I don't know enough about that to really talk about it. Like they
Mhm.
just mentioned it. We haven't They haven't even said like if and when that's going to happen, but they do have that technology. But no, I mean, every single day we're learning new things, like just from the technical point of view, we are learning so much. And the struggle will be to actually retain all of it. And so I really hope we review a lot of the things, um, and continue to review it until a lot of these things just become second nature, because they're really giving us a lot of looks, a lot of options from a lot of different areas, and giving us a lot of things to consider, that will be incredibly instrumental to our success in a fight situation. If we have more options, then we'll be more composed, and if we're more athletic, we'll have more energy, we'll have better cardio, and ultimately be able to execute, more in a more efficient and effective way, and be just produce better results.
All right. Well, until the next time we meet and talk, it was phenomenal chatting with you and kind of catching up on the first couple of weeks. Good luck to you and in getting back into full blast training next week, and hopefully we could talk about you know something exciting that you've been getting into in the next chat.
For sure, I'm sure there's always something new every week, so definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you so
John.
much. Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
so
for
much
sure.
for the time, and we'll catch up and whenever we could, figure out a time,
Sure.
everybody's busy, so maybe in the next couple weeks sometime, right?
All right. Yeah, sounds good. All right, take care, John. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.